Page 44, theme from Symphony No. 39. This piece is in the key of B flat major. It's got two flats. All the B's and all the E's are going to be flatted automatically. There's a few accidentals in there too, and some natural signs and whatnot, so you'll see them. I'd like to talk a little bit. There's a little bit of trickiness. Let's just go over some of it. Starting with the right hand. In the second line, it starts out with the C, the half note C, and then they're saying fourth finger on the E flat for the second measure. And that's fine, you're in position for all those notes, but I just don't like putting a thumb on a black note if I don't have to, and I don't have to here. So here, on the second measure, instead of a fourth finger, I just use a fifth finger on it. And then you can come up. On the third measure, you can finger it like it's shown, except you're using a second finger on the B flat instead of a thumb. And then you can put a thumb on the next to the last measure, the dotted half note, and finish it off with that. Or you can figure it the way it's shown too, that works too. Then in the last measure of the second line, we have repeated D's. All right. I recommend that you play the half note with fourth finger, and then the quarter note with third finger, and then in the first measure of the third line, play that D with second finger. Then in the second measure of the third line, play that first note with the thumb. That way we're taking care of these repeated notes. So to demonstrate that, with starting with the last measure of the second line, like so. In the next to the last measure of the third line with those eighth notes, I recommend you start with the thumb on the C here. The previous measure, you're coming off of a D flat, C, and then playing the C with the second finger. So with the eighth note C, I recommend a thumb. And then with the last F, the last note in that measure, I would play that with a little finger. So I can reach the next F in the next measure. It's an octave down. So that the eighth note measure is here. Or you can finger it the way they're showing you. That works too, I suppose. In the last line and the next to the last measure, I would finger that one the same as I did the third measure of the second line, with the second finger on the B flat, and finish with the thumb on the B flat. For the left hand, you're really just doing chords pretty much. I tend to slur the first two notes on this, connect them, and then just separate the notes. It's not staccato, it's just separated. That helps to reinforce the natural accent, which is the first beat of the measure. Second line, last measure, left hand, D, F, right? Got those notes? Fourth line down in the left hand, first two measures here. You're on 3-5 or 5-3 to start, and then immediately it's a thumb. You may have to practice that move. Watch the fingering here. So it's 3-5, 1, 2, and then a 3, and then bring the thumb under to get the D, and then a third finger on the C. And that prepares you for the next measure. Now, as far as the pedaling goes, I assume they're giving you pedaling here just so you can get some exercise in pedaling. So we'll just kind of go with what they're doing with a couple minor changes here and there. Now, as far as the pedaling goes, let's just go over it so you know. It's legato pedal for the first couple of measures. So you're right at the beginning, you're going to push the notes down and then the pedal. Then in the next measure, you're going to change the pedal right after you play the notes. And the third measure, lift it up right after you play the notes. Next line, the same thing. Now in the third line, the last two measures, I don't recommend overlapping there because we're starting a new phrase at the last measure. That is a new phrase, and I like a little break in the right hand between the last two measures, so we can tell we're starting a new phrase. So the pedal has to come up here, it's not overlapping. So here you're playing the next to the last measure here, and then as I lift the right hand, I'm going to lift the pedal so the sound in the right hand stops, and then I'll put the pedal down right after I play the first note in the last measure. So to demonstrate that in time, it's this way. 2, 3. So I get just a hair of silence in the right hand between the phrases. And the third line, we don't have to worry about that so much because we have a quarter rest there in the third measure, and that breaks the phrases. So the third line, we're here. Legato pedal. So, and it's the same way for the rest of the piece then. And the last measure, the hands and the pedal all come up at the same time. And that's how I suggest you do the pedaling. So, 3/4 time will give us 3 counts, so let's try this out. Your hands go here, foot's on the pedal, here we go. 1, ready, go. 2, 3. Now, there's probably all kinds of orchestra recordings of this piece on wherever, but to give you an idea of what this arrangement might sound like, because it is marked allegro, that is kind of quick, this is how I think you might play it.